All right. It is 11:35, so we are going to get started with HTML. Um, Hopefully, everyone has their text editor downloaded, and yeah, we'll be doing some coding at the end of the HTML workshop. So yeah, let me exit this. Cool. All right. So yeah, we talked about HTML already being the building block for websites. Um, so this is why we're starting off, because it's very like it's the bare bones that you'll need to make a website. And you've probably already heard of like, or you might have heard of the term HTML already, but not really know what it is. So yeah, we'll first answer the question, what is it? So HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. And it's a little bit important distinction to make that HTML is not actually a programming language. It's actually a markup language. So it doesn't actually, it's not like, it doesn't encode programs. It actually just encodes like markup for, I guess, like different structures. A best way to think about it is, I don't know if you guys, I don't know if there's a good example actually. You guys don't use LaTeX, right? You guys are in high school. Let's see. It's basically, okay, you guys will see once you look at how HTML looks, but it's not a programming language. But it's essentially, it's a language that your web browser will use to describe the content and structure that your web page is in. So we'll see what that looks like. But that's a boring definition of it. So the actual hype definition of it is that it's a bunch of nested boxes. And that's actually what it really is. It's just a bunch of nested boxes, and you'll see what I mean. That's what HTML it fundamentally really is, and you should think of it that way. So let's look at an example. This is XKCD. If you don't know XKCD, it's an amazing webcomic. Highly recommend looking at them. They have some great comics. One of my favorite webcomics of all time. But this is their webpage. We picked this webpage because it's very boxy, and you can very easily tell where all the like HTML boxes are. So first of all, like the entire thing is a box, right? And then like you have probably a box for your actual page content that's separated from your background. Then each of those have like 3 boxes. And then within all those boxes, there are more boxes, one to separate like all your navigation tags, some to separate like your titles, some to separate like your comic navigation from the actual comic. And then within all of those, there's even more boxes. And then within all those, there's more boxes for controlling, right? So you can really partition a lot of websites this way. Like most websites are just a bunch of boxes, inside boxes, inside boxes. Basically, if you look at any website, you can do it. You can do this. That's usually what all websites are. So HTML is a language that describes these boxes. This is what HTML looks like. The syntax is a little bit hard to get used to at the beginning, so bear with me. But basically, this is, you have the very beginning, this like doc type HTML tag, and then you have something that declares that this is HTML, and then basically a head and a body, and then yeah, as you can see, like whatever's on here translates to whatever's on the right. So what's fundamental about HTML is this concept of tags. A tag is what is in between these brackets. So as you can see, there's like a bracket, HTML bracket, and the bracket head bracket. That's what's called a tag, and I'm going to refer to that as a tag. So there's going to be like opening and closing tags. And the opening tag is the tag with just like the bracket and then a word inside, and the closing tag is a bracket slash and then the word. And you hit and the stuff inside in between the opening and closing tag is the content within that. And most of the time, one set of brackets, like one tag set, defines like one box most of the time on your page. So yeah, so yeah, this is just highlighting. So head is actually a special tag. It doesn't actually display anything on your page, but inside your body is the actual body of your web page. And inside body, you have this tag called H1. It becomes your heading, and then the tag called P, which becomes your paragraph. And we'll discuss what those are later. All right. Yeah. So this is the general format of HTML. This is what your opening tag looks like. Your closing tag, content goes in the middle. And a very important thing is within HTML, your tags must be correctly nested. So you can't do this because like essentially think of it like you have to close the HTML tag. Like you have to completely surround other things within another tag. It's kind of like putting boxes within other boxes, right? Like we'll use the boxes analogy in real life. If you have a ton of boxes like for storage, you can't put like the start of a box inside a box and then the end of a box outside of that box, right? It's either like in the box or like the other box inside that box, if that makes sense. So similarly, this B tag, closing tag, has to close inside the A, or it just has to exist outside the entire A tag. Basically, it has to be nested in a correct way, such that the boxes don't overlap. Yeah, so that's wrong. And then the last thing is this weird like thing at the top, doc type HTML. You just have to, that's like a thing that is a standard people just do to declare that this is HTML. Yeah, so this is the general structure of every HTML page. You have an HTML tag that encloses everything. Then you have a head and a body. So the head tag has a bunch of information that's not displayed on your web page, but it's like important. So for example, is the title. The title is what is displayed on the tab of your web page at the very top. So for example, in here, the title is called title, the exclamation point. That's encoded inside the head tag or inside the body of inside the content of the head tag. But none of the contents of the head tag is actually in the body of your website. And then this content of your body tag is what's actually displayed on your website. And yeah, and then you have your heading here, you have the paragraph here. Yeah. So here's some basic HTML tags that you should know. Some of it, a lot of this is just like basic memorization, but they're pretty intuitive to remember. So HTML, head, body, those are the basic ones that you need to start any project. And then H1, H2, all the way down to H6 are your header tags. They're usually titles, and they get smaller and smaller as you go down to H6. But basically, you'll use them probably as like titles or headings at the top of your sections. And then the P tag is a paragraph tag. So it starts like paragraphs, which is like just smaller text. Okay. So now you might want to know, now that you know how to like insert text, how do you do fancier things like getting links? So there's another tag called A, stands for anchor, and it's used for links. So there's another cool thing about tags, besides just that you can open and close them, and it's that they have attributes. So I can set attributes on tags, and what an attribute is essentially just this right here, href. It's an attribute that I set onto this tag A, and essentially just like a property about it that modifies the behavior of that tag. So in this case, href is a very important attribute that you should remember. It's like a very basic one. And href is one that's used for linking things. So if I want to create a link, I will use the href as the name of my attribute, and the value will be a link within quotes. And then that whatever's inside this a tag will link to whatever my link is. So yeah, href is just something you have to remember. There are other attributes, but like this is a basic one that you can easily use. And this href stands for hypertext reference, if that helps you remember. So yeah, this is an example. If this tag was on just a web page, then you can click this link, and then it'll take you to that web page. Yeah. In fact, actually, we are ahead of schedule, so actually, I'm just going to show you how this works. So I will open up a text editor. Let me do this. Yeah, I'm just going to use Notepad because this is a very quick demo, but would recommend not using Notepad. But this is what we talked about, right? So I have to share my full screen. Hold on. Wait, you guys can see this, right? You can see my Notepad.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So I create a head tag, I create a body tag, right? And then I will create a anchor tag and do exactly what is on here. So I'll just grab this right here and put it in my body. So href links to this Wikipedia page about a dog, and then the text inside the anchor tag says I'm a link. That's all I have in my body. Maybe I'll add a title that says like, this is my title. All right, that's it. That's my HTML page. I guess I should also add the type HTML tag here. Cool. I'm going to call it blah.html and put it on my desktop. All right, and then now all I needed to do is I just go to my desktop, and then I see blah.html, and I just open it. And then, yeah, it'll open in my browser, because my browser is the typical app used to like open HTML files, and this is what it is. This is my website right now, and that's like the most basic website I can make, but you know I did it in like 10 seconds, right? And that you can do that too. You can make a website in like 10 seconds and in like a Notepad. So, and if I click this link, it'll link out to dog. So yeah, it's very easy, very simple to make a website. And same with like a p tag that we mentioned. This is a paragraph. And we also mentioned having a heading, right? So H1, H2, etc. And you got to make sure you close your tags. Cool. And then if I refresh this, yeah, look at that. Pretty cool, right? All right. Cool. I want to go back to my slides, but feel free to be doing this on the side, like on your text editor. Feel free to just like be playing around with the stuff that I'm talking about, and just like making a site on the side. All you have to do is just save it from your text editor, save it, and then open it like from your file system or something. Open it in a browser, and then it'll just like display it. All right, cool. Let me go back. All right. Yeah, so text is nice, but text is kind of boring. So how do we insert images? So here's a cute doggo. And yeah, there's an image tag, img. And then there's an attribute called source, and that's how you insert images. You link out to a image. Usually it can be a URL to an image file online, or it can be a path name to a file that's like local to your computer. But either way, it needs to be somewhere that basically your HTML file knows it can access a image, and then it will display that. It'll display the image there. The one thing to note is that image tags don't actually have a closing tag. So you don't close it this way. You just add the image. You don't have to close it. Yeah. But that's also, it's very similar to the link, the href, except you just do source instead, and then it'll just insert the image into your page. Okay. Next, we'll talk about one of the a little more confusing but very fundamental part of HTML. So make sure you're paying attention to this part. Divs and spans. So divs and spans are two of the most fundamental pieces of HTML. In fact, when you're actually writing a website and you're writing like just raw HTML, most of the stuff you're writing is probably going to be divs. Most of the tags you're making are probably going to be div tags. Basically, divs are just structural tags. They don't do anything of themselves, but they help you structure your code or your HTML in a way that makes it easy to divide up your website into blocks. So see if there's a good example. Yeah. So for example, right here, I can wrap my heading and my paragraph within a div. And then basically this groups these two together. And then that way, now I can do things like with my CSS, for example, I can move these two things together around, or like enlarge them together, or insert things above it and or below these like as a group. Similarly, as a span, what about a span? So actually, one thing is, okay, there's a web development secret that I will let you guys in on. And it's a well-known secret that's been passed down between many ages of web developers. And I'm passing it down to you guys. And it's that we Google the most basic things every day. It's basically that we spend more time on Google than I think any other profession in the world. So when you don't know something, make sure you Google it first, because that's usually how you're going to find out about what it is. And that's definitely not a bad thing. So if you don't know, for example, what a span is, just to Google HTML span. What does the span tag do? And the answer is like, it doesn't really do anything. And then you'll learn it. You'll learn where the span plays in. So span is usually used to just add inline styling to things. And it's just a generic, it's like an inline version of a div. We're not going to really talk about it because it's not super useful to us. But you can totally Google it. You can become a web developer and Google things, because it's a trade secret that's basically 90% of the job. And it's not a bad thing, but just don't be ashamed of Googling things. All right. So just to recap, divs and spans are essentially just container elements. They don't have any visual impact yet, but they will. Stay tuned for the CSS workshop. But they are very useful for grouping individual like components together, and their use will become more and more apparent. All right. So this concludes our HTML like lecture portion of it, and then we'll just be writing some HTML together. First of all, does anyone have any questions. So hopefully you guys, if you had any, you could add it to the Q&A doc. But now I'm also looking at the chat. So if you have any questions in the chat, I can also answer those for you. Okay. Any parts that were confusing that I should go over again? Go to the image slide. Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, we are going to code HTML in Visual Studio. Yep. So the div is just used to box things together. First question. So Igosa, did you have a question about the image slide specifically, or? Would you? Yeah. So you add an image to your website using HTML. So actually, well, it doesn't really matter. It depends on your use case. Most of the time, you'd want to do it with HTML, but you can also set it with CSS as a background image. Yeah, I would recommend HTML most of the time. There's only some cases where I would use it in CSS. Yeah, so image hosting sites usually is the easiest to like add an image because you don't have to deal with like pathing locally and then like moving around your files. So I would recommend for now like just searching up images on Google and then like getting the link from the image hosting site. Yeah, so in most OSs, you can just open it up like in a open up the file by just like clicking on it, and it should open up in a browser. And yeah, and then you should be able to do it. If it doesn't work in your browser, you can also in Chrome you can like type in the path to the file. So similar to like here, this is the path that I set to blah.html. It's at file://home/justinyu/desktop/blah. That's a long way to get to it, but usually you can just click on your file system and it'll get you there. If you have trouble, further trouble, let me know. Yeah. All right, let's keep going. Wait. How can you see the website you're coding in the browser on this? Yes, same thing. So yeah, just open it in the browser. You should be able to see it. Okay, I'm not sure, Los Angeles, but you can put your question in the Q&A doc, and then someone can answer it there. I think it's a more specific question. So yeah. Okay, and then I think Soto had a question earlier about divs. So I just wanted to clarify actually. Divs, yeah, so you can group any number of things together, any number of tags. And actually, if you look at this page again, it's basically like all of these boxes, especially these outer boxes, are probably divs. So for example, this bigger box, this like a huge box on the outside is a div for sure. And it has a background color that's set to this, right? And then it's surrounding this inner box with the content, which is another div that contains these three boxes, which are also divs probably, which contains these boxes, each of which is probably also a div. And then each of these are probably also divs, except for these, which are probably like the text itself, which is probably H tags or paragraph tags, but everything else that's containing multiple elements are probably divs. So they're just ways that you can like structure the elements on the page. Cool. All right. Any more questions? All right, cool. So I'm going to first demo the image tag for you, and then I'm going to go into the actual project that you guys will be working on for the next few for like the rest of the workshop. So I'm just going to add an image here. It's going to be an image of a dog. So image tag source equal to something, and then remember you don't have to close your image tags. And let's just type up like dog and golden retrievers because those are the best. Yeah, let's do this one. So usually if you do like open image new tab, this is the actual, usually if you do like copy image address, it'll get, oh yeah, that's not good. So you want to find a link that ends in like .jpeg or some kind of image extension. Copy link address, hopefully, no. Yeah. There you go. Cool. And then that'll mean that that's an actual like image file. Yeah. So this image tag, all it does is it inserts the image here. Now I have the image. And then now, you know, if I want to structure my page better, I would probably want to like put, you know, surround my entire page with a div, and then probably divide up like these two from each other or something. Something like that. And then as you can see, like, so it doesn't actually change anything about the page itself yet. But once we learn CSS, it'll make a lot more sense. Like now with CSS, I could actually like change the IM link and the image together, like to, you know, move it around or change the background color of it or something. So it's always good to group your content based on like what section of the page kind of that it belongs to. That way you can always modify it according to its purpose. Okay. Cool. So now I'm going to go into the project that we're going to be working on. Oh, yeah. So you can specify the size of the image, and that's going to be CSS. So that will be next lecture, next workshop. I don't want to call it lecture. That sounds really boring. Next workshop. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So Alex, you have to set the extension of the file to .html. Because if it's .txt, it'll open as a text file. So yeah, make sure your files are extension.html. All right. So you may or may not be surprised that the project that we will challenge you guys on is a dog generator, given our dog theme today. So your challenge is to create a dog generator that will allow you to type in a dog breed and get a dog picture back, and allow you to generate a random picture of any dog. So we will provide a actual API to like get the picture of a dog itself, but you will be in charge of creating the interface for either typing in the dog breed and getting the picture back, or having a button to generate the random dog picture, and having a place to actually display the picture and then making it look nice. and making it look, like something that you would actually use. So I will kind of like walk you guys through the bare bones of how, like an example of how you might start it. But feel free to deviate from what I'm about to do. But everyone right now, let's open up VS Code and let's get started. So yeah, I'll give you like 30 seconds to start up VS Code. Open up a file, call it like dog.html or something. Put it somewhere that you know where the location is. And yeah, let's get started. All right, in the meantime, I'll just look at chat. All right, cool. So yeah, it should. So actually, I don't personally use VS Code. I use Sublime, but if you have VS Code questions that are specific, you can definitely ask the chat or ask the document. A lot of our team members use VS Code, so they will definitely be able to help you. I unfortunately can only answer the most basic of questions about VS Code, but nonetheless, I will try my best. All right. All right, I'm gonna close chat. So hopefully, if any other questions, just add it to the document. All right, everyone can see this, right? I'm gonna call this dog.html. Oh, and we recommend VS Code because I think it is objectively a better text editor than Sublime or other things. I just use Sublime because it's what I started with, and yeah, I just stick with it. But if you're just starting now, I would definitely recommend starting with VS Code. Okay, so from what we learned, you always start with your doc type.html. There's packages that let you just like cheat and do that, but I'm going to actually type it out with you guys. So doc type HTML, right? And then HTML tags, HTML, right? So make sure, just like code along with me, I guess. Have it open in like a side view or something, and just like feel free to code along with me. So you have your head, then you have your body. Yeah. Basic structure of website. This is like just the fundamental. Like you'll always need to have this on any website. Okay. The head, there's really nothing to do except just be like, let's set a title. So let's just call it like dog generator or something, whatever you feel like. I'm kind of calling mine that. Actually, I want to add a smiley face because I'm excited. Dog generator. Okay. Now inside my body, I'm going to have one big div, just like for my entire body. That, if remember from that XKCD comic, that would be like the one that encloses everything. Then I'm going to have probably like a H1 tag for my dog generator for like the title of the page, right? Then I want to what else? So I guess I want to have an image, right? I want to have an image where the dog generator will actually be displayed. So I'll do like image. I'll leave the source empty for now, but I'll just have the source there. And then I also want a place where I can input the dog, the breed of the dog. And so this is a new tag that we didn't discuss, but there is an input tag for, yeah, there's an input tag. And basically it allows you to input things. Oh, and then this is, so for tags that you don't need to close, you actually, you do this. So instead of having like this, instead of having input like this, you actually put a slash at the very end. It's just a convention. It doesn't really break anything, but yeah. But you inputs, you can put things in it if you want. So yeah. Okay, we'll see how this looks in a second. Actually, let's just see how this looks right now. I'm gonna put that same picture here. Okay, this is my webpage. Hopefully you have something similar on your VS Code. And then I'm just going to go to dog.html. Nice. All right. So that's what I have so far. So yeah, I'm not going to have anything in my input. I'm just going to do that. So this is where I guess I'll input my dog breeds, right? This is the input tag. This is the image tag. This is my dog generated title. So far it's looking as expected. All right, so now I need the buttons, right, to actually, I need the buttons to actually submit, like, to get the random dog or to submit the specific image of a dog. So let's say, let's group those together. Let's group the buttons together because I think that makes sense, like content-wise, right? So let's create a new div, and then let's create another div for each. Let's create a div for each button. So this div will be like generate or find random dog, and this div will be like find specific dog breed. Yeah. Okay. All right, so this is like super basic, but the site itself already has like some kind of structure to it. But you know, it's still pretty ugly. You know, not gonna lie. Like you can tell me that it's kind of ugly. It won't hurt my feelings, but it will look a lot prettier once you know how to CSS. So a few things to note that I didn't cover in the lecture actually is that divs normally how they're structured, how they're laid out on the page is that they're laid out line by line. So if you notice that for each div, it gets placed below the next. It's basically a new line, right? The find random dog is above the find specific dog breed, whereas everything else that's not a div is placed in line. Actually, well, most things are placed in line. Like so, images inputs, for example, are in line. So if I wanted to, for example, have this input be on the next line, an easy way to do that is to basically create a new div for it. So I want to wrap this in its own div. And that way, this will end up on its own line because now these are in three kind of separate boxes of stuff. Does that make sense to people? So that's another way you can structure, like a way to structure your page is through this kind of like div thing. Yeah. Cool. So anyone have any questions? Okay. Then there's one more thing I want to show you is that there's another tag for called button, which I'm going to change these to. And button is exactly what it sounds like. It's just the most basic HTML for a button. And it'll basically change these to being buttons instead. So it's pretty nice. It's nicer than just having text be buttons. Yeah. So once you guys know how to do CSS, then we can like decrease the size of this image. We can center this input. We could create like a background color. We could make these buttons colored and all those things that make this nice and pretty. And then once you know JavaScript, we can basically, once you click this button, we can replace this image with a random picture of another dog and keep doing that every time you click this image. And so that's a JavaScript function. So with HTML, we've laid out the basic structure of the page. With CSS, we'll make it pretty, and with JavaScript, we'll make it functional. But yeah, that's all really for for HTML. We have like 15 minutes left, so I want to take this the rest of the time to just kind of like let you guys code and add whatever you want to this dog generator. I gave you like a really basic structure, but feel free to add whatever features you want. Maybe improve on what I did, and or just like feel free to play around and just yeah, ask me any questions. I'll be here for another 13 minutes. So yeah, you guys are free to experiment. Oh yeah, John. So HTML tags, you can probably search up like HTML tag cheat sheet or something. There are a bunch out there, but we've covered the most common ones that you'll ever want to use. So that's like div, the H1, H2, H3, H6, anchor tags P, the head, body, image, input button. Yeah, like those are probably 98% of what you'll ever use in terms of tags. But yeah, you can always Google it and find there's a few other tags that might be helpful. Yeah, so you want to make sure that the link ends in the file name .jpg. So actually, so hell, if you just segment your thing to end in .jpg, like you see where it has .jpg and then a question mark and then a bunch of other random stuff. Just crop out that random stuff, and then it should work. So to rename your file, you can do it through whatever your operating system's method is. So like, I mean, through your like basic file system, you can rename a file, right? Just by like clicking on it, being like rename. You can do that. You don't have to do it through VS Code itself. I'm actually not sure how you do it through VS Code, but probably like edit or something. Amani, no, we're not adding anything specific. So we're just adding this is your chance to just experiment with anything, like add on to what I already have. So feel free to add whatever you want. Experiment with like, yeah, whatever you want. Maybe add like several other images. Yeah, I don't know. Add some more text, maybe like describe what the dog generator is doing. Add maybe a few more buttons. Whatever you want. I think your website looks like it should work. I don't know why it's blank. Maybe check if you're like opening up the right file on your browser. Oh, yeah, wait. Yeah, I think I just got it. Oh, one thing actually kind of good to know is if you're using Chrome, but also if you're using other things, there's a very nice set of tools called your developer tools. So if you right click on any website and you click inspect, it'll open this page on the right side. And basically, this allows you to actually examine the HTML of your website. So right here, I have the actual HTML now, and I can look at all the divs, and it'll point them out to me. So like, I have my head, which is not actually on the page. Now my body, and then I have my enclosing div. Right, this is the outer box. I have my H1 at the top, my image. Then I have my second box, and then my third box. So this allows me to like just kind of look through and see the structure of my HTML page. This is a lot more useful with like larger sites. So I do the same thing on Wikipedia. This is the HTML on Wikipedia. So you can see like all the boxes that they have, all the divs. Yeah, it's like a lot of stuff. But you can see like the basic structure of their stuff, even though it's way more complicated, it's still the same as what we covered. It's all a bunch of divs surrounding a few like p tags, some a tags, some h4s, h1s, h2s. All of this is exactly what we covered. And you'll notice that like, yeah, HTML, that's all it is what we covered in the lecture. Like it's just that times like 100. So basically, you already have all the building blocks to create a full page website like Wikipedia. But yeah, so how you access it, again, is to right-click, click inspect, and you can get here. It's a very nice way to just look at HTML. Yeah, so Hill, I think you're, yeah, there you go. Thanks, Ronkai. Oh, yeah, so Charles, difference between div and span. So actually, I can try doing this. So span is, let's see. Let me see if there's a good example. If I just like do this. Let me change anything. What's a quick example I can use? It's so span is generally like inline. Okay, let's see. So spans are just divs, like they're meant for structure, but they're inline instead of blocks. So by block I mean they stack downwards, so like they are added on the new line. Instead they're added inline. So like if I change this div to a span, it gets added back onto the previous line of the image. Yeah, so divs would create a new line underneath the image. Spans would not. That's really the main difference. Otherwise, both div and spans don't really add anything visual, and they're mainly for structuring your code. Yeah, and spans are not used very often, but if you need inline structuring, usually use spans. Yeah, so to use Vedika, to use a image from your desktop. So actually, let me show you how to do that. So let me save this. Dalgo.jpg. And yeah, I'll just put it here. So basically, dalgo.jpg is also on my desktop folder. So it's in the same folder as this HTML file. So I can reference it like this. And then it should, yeah. So dalgo.jpg, it will recognize this file pathing because it's in the same folder. If it's not in the same folder, I will have to use like different file pathing. Like dot means going out to my parent folder, or I have to go into like another folder inside desktop or something like that. But yeah, you basically path the file in relation to where the HTML file itself is. Though sometimes you have to be a little careful when you're using more complex projects, because it's not usually clear where the HTML file is being served from. It's not always exactly where the HTML file is in your file system. It's a little confusing. So usually in beginner web dev things, we just use like image hosted sites because that's easiest. So Alex, to add empty lines, usually you use CSS. So there's like things called margin. You can add margin to the bottom of things. But if you're say adding a bunch of text and you don't want to like add margin in the middle of text. So here, if I have like hello, this is a bunch of text, right? And then but I want to add a new line here. There's a tag called BR. And basically that just adds a bunch of new lines. Each BR is a new line. Oops. Wait. Yeah. And then like that. So if I refresh this, yeah, you see that this creates a new line here. That's what the BR tag does. But normally, if you want to create new lines between like divs and stuff, you generally use the CSS property called margin, which we'll cover in CSS. All right, I'm gonna answer like one or two last questions before I'll let you guys go.